everyone. My name is Emily Costantino Lee, and I am the Marketing and Promotions Manager here at the Santa Barbara Independent. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Downtown Business Spotlight. This is a interview series hosted by the Santa Barbara Independent and Downtown Santa Barbara, where we highlight Santa Barbara businesses and what they are currently up to. We are recording this conversation, and it will be on both independent.com and downtownsb.org in case you want to view it afterwards or share it with a friend. And you can also find all previous recordings of past Downtown Spotlights on those web pages as well. And if you have any questions for our guest today, please put them in the chat below or the Q&A, and we will be sure to get those to them. Our host today is Robin Elander. Robin is the Executive Director of Downtown Santa Barbara, and she will be hosting our conversation. And with that, I will turn it over to Robin.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emily. And thank you all for joining us for this show. So I'm so excited to be here with Janet Garufis, who is the Chairwoman and CEO at Montecito Bank and Trust. Welcome. Also here with Clare Briglio, who is the Director of Communications at the Economic Development Collaborative. And also Nicki Parr, who is the Associate Director of Strategic Initiatives at Women's Economic Ventures, and Miguel Avila, who is the co-chair of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, everyone. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Great to be here.
Great. Well, there's been so much going on. I want to first just take a moment to get to know each of you, talk a little bit about your backgrounds, and then I want to hear, from you all about your vantage points as to kind of where we have been at this past year. So we're going to be talking about money matters and financial and business conversations here. So let's start with Janet. Thank you so much for joining us. Janet, can you tell us a little bit about your career, your background, and how you kind of have gotten to this space? You've been doing so much for our community, not only this year, but for many years here in Santa Barbara. Can you just talk a little bit about your history and your role in the community?
Sure, happy to. I started my career in banking in 1973 as a teller at Security Pacific National Bank, and I put myself through college doing that. And I ended up staying in the bank, going on the management training program, because it was really, there was no other, I wanted to go teach college, get a PhD, and didn't seem like a good idea at the time. And banking had been really so much fun and so interesting, and opportunities to learn, and it didn't let me down. I did that for a long time. I took early retirement from Bank of America when it was acquired by Nations Bank after that integration, and decided that I would go get that PhD, and that's what brought me to Santa Barbara in 2002. I was attending UCSB, and I went through the program there. And when my husband became quite ill, I really needed to go back to be fully employed. And so I went to what I knew, which was banking, and actually really loved. But I didn't want to leave Santa Barbara. It was our home, and we really loved it here. And so I looked around for banking work, and I very happily met Michael Tobes. And he and I sat down to have a conversation one day about my joining the organization. And we talked for about an hour and a half, and found out that we had lots of things in common. And after 90 minutes, he asked me why I thought I wanted to work at Montecito Bank and Trust. And I said, well, just based on what you've described to me, one of the things was community dividends. He just started it. I said, I think this is a good fit. I think I can make a difference here, and that matters to me. I want to work someplace where I can come to work every day, and it matters that I showed up. And he said, well, I think so too. You got the job. The job right on the spot. And the rest, as they say, is history. It was really serendipitous. It has been truly the most transformative career path I could have hoped for if I had written a job description to, I think, fill all of the things that I knew how to do and optimize that. This would be it. And I just am grateful to be doing this work and to carry on Mike's legacy. I mean, it's really been an extraordinary journey, and I'm just so happy to be able to do it. I mean, I work in an organization that really truly believes in its mission to make the communities we serve better places to live and work. And we do that every single day. So I'm grateful to do it. Thank you for asking.
It's beautiful to just hear that history. And how long have you been with the organization now?
Let's see, I started in 2004. So I just passed the 16-year mark, I guess. And I've been the CEO since 2006.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so.
What a beautiful career, and you have been able to give so much to our community. I want to talk about some more of that in just a moment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Claire, can you tell us a little bit about your background? We've met, back in Ventura, but you have been doing so many amazing things since. Can you tell us a little bit about how you grew into your role now?
Yes, it's safe to say that I haven't had the perfect linear career path, that's for sure.
Who has?
It makes a better story, but I have a degree in political science. I was going to go to law school, and I was working in human resources, and loved and actually really enjoy human resources, but really wanted to start my own business. And so in 2011, I started my own business. And with the help of Women's Economic Ventures, I went through their program. And I also connected with the Small Business Development Center in Camarillo. And, through that, really grew an understanding of myself. I tell my clients now, all business development is personal development. It's a great way to understand yourself. And for the Small Business Development Center about over 7 years ago as a business development advisor, helping other people start their business, brand their business, and really found a niche for myself there. Just love helping business owners one-on-one. And gosh, it was now more than 3 years ago, but right at the time of the Thomas fire, I had a design business that was based in Montecito. Know what happened there, when with the mud flow and all of that, and my business kind of went with it. And at the time, the director of the Small Business Development Center said, "Can you come full-time on board and help businesses in recovery?" And I said, "Yes, I will," because I love helping them, and my heart was going out to so many business owners that I knew, that so many of my clients that just didn't know what to do. That was our first major disaster that we faced together. And then, every year thereafter, there was another major disaster. So I worked primarily as the communications director, but really as a business disruption resource director for the region. We host the Economic Development Collaborative hosts the Small Business Development Center as designated by the SBA for Ventura and Santa Barbara County. So we've served quite a few. We touched 14,000 businesses last year alone, with resources. But that is, in a nutshell, how I got into my job. And ironically, I really identify with Janet's comments. I told my director, I said, I don't know how long I can do this job for you. I'm moving. I don't, my husband wants to move, or we're moving on into a different space in our life. And I said, but what you really need is a communications director. And I wrote the job description for that. And then it became my job. He's like, "Okay, you're hired." So
nice work on that one. That was good.
Thing. And it's worked out really, really well. I love the people I work with, and the job is very rewarding.
Well, thank you for sharing your background. It has been amazing to see how much you have connected our community and what you've been doing in this past short time, but longer time since I've been in my new role. So thank you for that, Claire. Miguel, would you like to go next? Tell us a little bit about your history and how you got into this role. I know you've been the chair here for some time, but also in real estate as well. So I know you can talk forever, man. So I just, let's give a short background, because you have a very robust background.
Well, the reason is because when I started my life here in Santa Barbara, none of you were even born yet. So, that's how
I
far I
doubt
go
that's
back.
true, Miguel.
So it was, I go back to 1973 when I arrived here in Santa Barbara. Within a week or so, I find myself working at the El Paseo restaurant right in the heart of downtown. Back when it was the economy, the restaurant business industry was just booming. I mean, people had so much money, people were just blowing money away. It was great to work in the restaurant business. Because of that, I supported five sisters and my mother in Mexico, and I supported them from young by myself. Since age 12, I didn't have a father. So I paid for their education, college. I paid for their weddings because they all married young guys who graduated from college with them. So imagine broke. So anyway, and help them get their lives started. Fortunately, I was in the right place at the right time, working the right business, working very hard, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And so I did that for 20 years. I bought my first house when I was 24 years old after my sisters graduated and got married and paid for their weddings and all of that. Then I said, okay, now it's time for me. So I bought my first house here in Santa Barbara, the old American dream, which now for the last 16 years, I'm able to help so far around 700 people to own their own home.
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
But to complement all of that, because the ultimate all-American dream is to own your home, own your business, work for yourself, and own the property where your business is. So pay rent to yourself for your business, and then not have to pay rent, pay mortgage, and get all the deductions, and get all the benefits. That's the ultimate all-American dream, and that's what I like to do, and that's what I've been doing for 17 years already. So, but before that, I have to say that I've been extremely blessed. I am probably one of the most blessed human beings in the world. First, I arrived to Santa Barbara without knowing that I was coming here. I started working in a business where there was so much work, so much business, incredible income for a young age. And then also very blessed health-wise. I have never been unemployed in almost 48 years. Never been sick, even missed one day because of illness or being sick in almost 48 years. So, very, very blessed. And I pretty much been able to work the kind of work that I love, that I like, that I can impact other people with in a very good way. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, I had already gotten started with my civic life with Sister Cities, Puerto Vallarta, Santa Barbara, because they got started in 1973 at the El Paseo restaurant. So I grew up seeing all these leaders, and so was surrounded by all these leaders, all these politicians, all these businessmen, so many mentors that I surrounded myself with for free. I never had to pay for any advice. And they all love me. They all like me. They all like to give me their advice and help me financially. Well, I made my own money, but they guided me in how to make my money work for me and make more money. Anyway, so, but right around after a lot of success in business and all of that, I was hoping to find an organization that would coach me, that would mentor me, that would teach me about leadership, local leadership. And then, when you wish for something, guess what? It comes, it falls right on your lap. Leadership Santa Barbara County, 8990, came into place, and somehow, I don't know, somebody recommended me to the founders of this organization, and it was a 1-year program, very, very busy, and with forums every month, all day long. So
Yeah, they
however,
have such a great program. So much.
absolutely. So anyway, it was about 55 of us that were the inaugural program. I loved it. I liked it. I fell in. I felt like I was at home. It was just the first year. There were only 2 founders, or 2 people that came up with the idea. But there was no organization, there was no board, there was nothing to really guide it and keep it together. So the whole group decided to start a board. And guess what? I got appointed to be one of the 9 co-founding board members. So I guess they saw my enthusiasm. They saw that I was just working and giving my input and participating in everything that I could. That they said, hey, this guy can be a candidate, and that's really when I started.
That's
So
incredible. I want to hear
kicked
your
off
whole
everything.
history, Miguel, because you have such a good one. But I want to,
Thank
can you fast forward to when
Yeah.
you started with the Hispanic Chamber?
Okay, it was 1994 when I started it. Everything starts for a reason. 5 years before that, I was member of a group called Latino Business, the Hispanic Business Council under the Santa Barbara Chamber. And I became the 5th president of that council. And so, everybody else before me, they were, no offense, but they were kind of like my age right now. Back then, I was like probably early 30s, I think, mid 30s, I was like the youngest. And so I had more ideas, more ambitions. I didn't want to see a limit, being put a limit. So that's when I said, okay, it's time to go on our own, and become independent, and just seek for the horizon and be able to do as much as possible for the Latino business community and the small business community at large. So that's when I came up with the idea of starting the Santa Barbara Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We started with 15 board members, about 50 other people supported it, putting money and time, and we kicked it off. And within, I think, few years, 4 or 5 years, I had like 500 members.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you right there and come
Okay.
back to learn more about the Hispanic Chamber in just a minute, but I want to make sure that we have enough time to hear about Nicki's history and also talk about what's going on now, because there's certainly a lot happening now to discuss. Nicki, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you've gotten into this role at Women's Economic Ventures?
Yeah, sure. Well, I resonate very much with my other panelists. Like Janet, I worked at a bank through college. It was actually the first telephone bank in England. And it was quite revolutionary at the time. But I actually studied psychology and then made the non-linear decision to go into accounting and finance after I graduated. And I joined what was then Coopers & Lybrand and what then became PricewaterhouseCoopers, and became an accountant in England. And then I quickly realized that accounting was really not my forte. I didn't cross the T's and dot the I's to the level that should. I'm much more big picture. And I got into some forensic accounting work and fraud risk management, which was, kind of a more exciting part of accounting for me. And then I moved over here to America and was so lucky, like Miguel, to find myself in Santa Barbara just through serendipity. And that was about 17 years ago. And since then have worked in a variety of finance and operations roles, and in private industry and in private organizations, and got to a point a few years ago where I just wanted more fulfillment in my career. And I'd heard about Weave and, you know, had kind of seen their programs that they ran for entrepreneurs and was always quite curious about that. And then after the debris flow and the Thomas fire, they advertised a position for a business recovery specialist. And that was to work with businesses and clients, rather like Claire did and does, who had been impacted by the natural disasters. And that was my role. That was what I was gunning for, and I was fortunate enough to get it. And again, as Janet says, you know, this role just encompassed so much in terms of skills and fulfillment and kind of all the pieces of my career that I could bring together into one place. So I was able to bring the psychology, I was able to bring the finance, and I was able to coach business owners through a pretty difficult period and teach them about resilience and financial literacy and the importance of being financially prepared. And that's really what we recognized out of the natural disasters, was the need for financial preparedness within our small business community. As far as Weave goes, about a year ago, our founder, Marsha Bailey, decided to retire. She'd been at the helm for 29 years at that point, and Kathy Odell, our new CEO, came on board, and with it, a sea change of new strategic initiatives for the organization, and she asked me to assist her in rolling out those. So that's when I stepped over from the business recovery side into the strategic initiative side, and wow, it's been a roller coaster journey with and without COVID. But I call COVID our great disruptor. It facilitated a lot of really positive within the organization, and I couldn't be happier to be in the role there and working with such talented women within our organization, so, and within our community. So it's really great to see you all here today as well.
Oh, well, thank you. And it's really wonderful to hear how much you guys have all found your passions in these different spaces to be able to help people through, you know, some difficult moments along the way and help them grow as people and as businesses. Claire, I'd love to start with you a little bit about your kind of vantage point here over the last year. And I'm going to ask the same question of each of you. What have you seen, and is your business or is the Economic Development Collaborative responding to with the resources you're providing?
And it's a great question, because our community is in such a unique position in that we have gone through now 3 major disruptions. I mean, in Ventura County, probably a little bit more so with the Hill-Woolsey fire and that disruption. But we, you know, working with business owners that have gone through major traumatic events year after year after year has really opened my eyes to a number of things. One, we always say that disruptions reveal problems that already exist, and we see that consistently. We see that consistently with people who had as business owners, maybe had financial problems before, and now they're finally maybe reaching out for help because they don't know what else to do. We see business owners that knew that they needed to pivot their their business model. They needed to get online, for example, but they never knew how to do that. And now they're trying because they're in more of a desperate position. So I can't emphasize enough how people. It's one thing to talk about what I'm seeing in the business community, but without adding the human element, we're missing a part of the story, which is why
part
I'm
of
sharing.
the whole. Yeah, absolutely. Please do. This is a big picture conversation. Absolutely.
More big picture. Apologies if you hear my husband using the blender in the background. Anyway, yeah, it's been very difficult to work with individuals that have gone through so much trauma and have that trauma not be a known thing to them. Like when you're in the middle of a traumatic situation, sometimes you just can't see the forest through the trees, right? You're like, or the trees through the forest, or whatever the phrase is. But you need someone to hold your hand, you need guidance, you need consistent reassurance. You actually need someone to walk you through literally, 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, that at times, that type of thing. And my heart just goes out to all the business community that have gone through so many different disruptions. And we each respond to trauma differently. When you're working with a client that is, frustrated or irate or whatever because they can't upload their documents to the California Relief Grant site and it's not working, that expression is a bunch of different emotions that have added up to that moment. So working patiently has been really important. And I've lost your original question as I've gone off on this, but I hope I'm answering the question.
No, absolutely. We just talked about what is, from your vantage point, what have you seen? And this is some of the elements that you have seen. And then how is your organization helping to address some of these issues through the resources you're providing?
Yeah, I think so with that, with knowing all of the obstacles that have gotten in the way of people in recovery, I think one of the biggest personal attributes that we have seen that contribute to successful resiliency is self-advocacy. We see these business owners that have gone through multiple traumatic events, and if they can remain committed to their own self-advocacy, then they can navigate all of these different channels, because there's so many options available for people. There's free business consulting, which we provide. There's free, there's free money through grants. There's loans. There's federal loans. There's state loans. There's local loans. There's webinars. There's a whole bunch of different resources. But unless the individual possesses a level of that consistent self-advocacy, then they're not able to get through as much as they could. And I'm just mentioning that because it's one of the we throw around that word resiliency a lot, but we don't really define what it is. And one of the core elements of it is to be your own advocate, and to remain in a position where you're continuing to move forward. And that's very difficult in this moment, and we recognize that. So all that said, if anyone doesn't know what the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, offers, we offer free consulting services in Spanish and English for financial marketing. Anything you can think of, we offer it. And I'll give the contact information at the end.
Thank you. That's super helpful. Thank you, Claire, for just explaining kind of the depth of where we're at and how you're trying to address those things. Nicki, I know you have some similarities with Weave, but there's also quite a lot of differences. And I'm pretty familiar with the programs because I'm actually a product of Weave. I took some of the programs, the Thrive in 5 and the self-employment training, and it's helped me to get to where I am at. So I have a lot of respect for the organization. Can you speak a little bit to what you've seen and what Weave is trying to address in this unique, I know you're pivoting alongside of businesses that are pivoting. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And, our intention is to pivot to meet the businesses as they're pivoting. So,
right.
One of the things that we're really trying to do is provide a lot more online training, on-demand training, and specific training. So while we still have our core training program, which teaches you how to write a business plan, it's now a 7-week program. We've kind of adjusted the timeline on that. And while we still have our core long-term advisory program, which was formerly called Thrive, we're now adding in more shorter specific trainings, such as a QuickBooks course, QuickBooks coaching, short-term advisory, on pivoting your business or writing a business plan in order to get a loan, in order to qualify for a grant, in order to help businesses that have recognized over the last year that their old business model just isn't working anymore, and they need to just regroup and actually spend some time thinking about what they need to adjust in order to kind of survive and thrive, going forward in this new environment that we're in. But I think the thing that came out for us most last year, and that we're really trying to bring as sort of the focus of our energy going forward, is this need for community amongst our business owners. And we're really trying to put a lot of effort into organizing events and opportunities for business owners to come together in community and to engage in social learning, to meet, to network, to connect, to collaborate, to leverage, and really just to, help build that sense for, Santa Barbara, Ventura, and potentially wider afield as well. So definitely the priority on supporting the client through community, but also through very specific client-focused trainings.
Awesome, thank you. And Janet, can you speak a little bit as to what you're seeing? Some industries are hit harder than others, things that you've seen over the last year and how your organization is trying to address these issues.
Sure, Robin. It's been extraordinarily fluid.
Right.
Sure. Early March, when everything started to change, we recognized that there were going to be some real issues when everything shut down, just because of our experience and how we look at it as an economic cycle, so we knew it was going to be bad. We set up emergency loans for all of our clients. If they want an emergency loan, they just call us and tell us, and we give them the money. Businesses and consumers. We did loan payment deferrals. We deferred hundreds of loan payments, mortgages, business loans, all kinds of things. And we're still working through deferrals for certain industries. The hardest hit, of course, have been the hospitality industry. So we've really seen restaurants, hotels who've really, really had a hard time. Now, some of them really were able to really recover quite a bit in the summer, but as soon as the shutdown came again, doing it twice was really hard on them. So there's a number of folks who just didn't make it. We didn't even question the fact that we would do PPP in the very beginning. It was like building the plane while you're flying it, because the SBA didn't give us none of us any direction. The rules were changing every day, and the night before we were supposed to open up for PPP, we had about a week to set it up. And the night before, we still didn't have the final rules. So we didn't even know what the loan documents would look like or what the exact rules were going to be. But we did it anyway. And first round, we made about $100 million worth of loans, and that money was gone in probably 10 days.
Wow.
They reallocated, and there was another big allocation, $350 billion, which was not all used. Businesses didn't apply for it, but in the second round, it was still just first timers where you had not gotten a PPP loan the first time. We made about another $110 million worth of loans. Just to frame that for you, that's probably 2 years worth of lending for our bank in a span of several weeks. So it was all hands on deck. And what we saw internally is our team literally just, everybody came together. They just said, I'm here to do whatever you want me to do. They worked nights, they worked weekends. We had to tell people to go home for Easter Sunday because they really wanted those loans to get out to their customers. They knew how desperate they were. And I was so really, truly gratified and just grateful to every single person who worked for the bank, because they really do live the mission of the organization every day. And I think partly that's the nature of who we hire and how we are, but still, it was really gratifying to see how much we could do. We're the #1 lender to nonprofit organizations, #1 bank lender to nonprofit organizations in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, of any bank, not just little banks, any bank. B of A, Wells, we made more loans by number and dollar than anybody. largely that's because we have a lot of nonprofit clients. But we were also like number 4 of all banks in the county for making PPP loans. So we're really proud of that. And I really hand it off to the people who work for the bank, because it was because of their commitment to their community that happened. The bank, the leaders in the bank, we immediately at the very beginning decided that we have to take care of our employees. So wellness within the bank was really, really important. And we rallied to try to figure out how to send as many people home who could work from home. We're not a bank we're not an organization, industry that does that. Like if you work for a bank, you go to the bank.
Right.
But not anymore. Half of our people work from home. And we did that so we could create safe space and social distancing for the people who were location dependent. So we did that. In my vantage point, I also see a lot of nonprofit organizations and their struggles. All of the mental health provision organizations are just doing unbelievable work. I mean, they have been so impacted, and they are in schools. They are, they can't deliver their services the way they have delivered them in the past. But I think we can all be extraordinarily proud and grateful of this community that we live in, because we have unbelievable resources here. And I guess the last thing I would just say is, if you are willing, as Claire said, to advocate for yourself and seek those resources, they are there. You can find them. And people are so willing to help each other. Miguel and what he does at the chamber, and Nicki at Weave. I mean, there are so many places to get help if you're only willing to ask for it. And that's the thing that I think I've really witnessed, is that how this community comes together and helps each other. It's second to none. We're all, I think, pretty lucky to be here.
We really are. We have an amazing community, and people are coming together through this pandemic, and in all ways, really. Through when it was the mudslides, when there were other issues, we do come together, and that is a beautiful thing.
We've had a lot of practice.
we have, and we keep getting more. We keep getting forced. Yes. This year, we're getting forced into a whole lot more Zoom rooms than ever we would have expected. Thank you for sharing that. I want to come back to each of you, ask Miguel a couple more questions, and then think about where we're going next. But before we get into that, Miguel, can you share from your vantage point, what have you seen in the Hispanic and Latino community? How has this situation affected your community and our community? And how is the Hispanic Chamber working to address some of those issues?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Janet, I want to just cover something real quick. The word on the Central Coast was not that Banco Montecito was number 4. The word was that Banco Montecito was number 1, helping businesses, the best. That's the word. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure. What we have done, Jackie and myself as co-chairs and co-founders of this greater Santa Barbara Hispanic Chamber, because the one I started was just Santa Barbara Hispanic Chamber. This one is now covering the whole county. So we have a much bigger responsibility now. Is that, we have literally taken the bull by the horns. This pandemic has been mostly bad for a lot of businesses. It's been good for some businesses, because that's normally typically the way crises are. They're bad for the majority of the people, but they can be good for some people. So what we've done is, since these loans, grants, and PPPs and all of that have come up, basically our number one task has been to make sure that anybody that needs money has someone helping them to get them money. So the reason I mentioned Alan is because he himself called me and said, hey, even if they're not members of our bank, even if they don't bank with us, we want to help them. And so that was the best call, email or something that I got. And then I started just sending emails to all our members, everybody that I had in my roster. I said, hey, if you have success getting money for you to keep your business alive, to just keep on going, call Alan, call him, email him, whatever, but you know, just grab him by the tails and hang in there. And he did. He did. And then Jackie and I ourselves, when Goleta said, hey, there's money, grant money, Jackie and I went and we walked the Old Town Goleta. We met with all these businesses, even though they weren't members of our chamber. We were there and we helped them, took them by the hand to make sure that they applied for the Goleta grants, and even for the Santa Barbara. When the Santa Barbara said we're going to put out some money and it's going to be matched by the Santa Barbara Foundation, we also went and contacted our Santa Barbara small businesses. And you know, if you haven't gotten any money, well, let's try to get some money from Santa Barbara, the city of Santa Barbara. So that's mostly where a lot of our time has been invested, in making sure that the businesses that have not been so lucky, you know, that the crisis has not helped them at all, well, to make sure that they get some a breath of fresh air, getting some money from whenever, whatever, so they can try to just stay alive, because eventually all these crises, they end. And the one that managed to somehow survive and hang in there until the pandemic or the crisis is over, then, you know, a new horizon comes in, and then it's a whole different deal. So I've seen many of this, you know, almost 48 years, working mostly in the downtown area and the Central Coast up and down because of my real estate business. I had an export business also for about 5 years, where I traveled a lot into Mexico, and I worked mostly with Bakersfield and Fresno, exporting farming equipment. So you know, I know my passion is business and helping all of those that want to help themselves. That's what I like to do, is you know, make sure that everybody has the opportunity, or as many who want to have the opportunity to do a future for themselves and their families, working for themselves.
Well, thank goodness for your advocacy, Miguel, and your team there at the Hispanic Chamber, and really for all of you for your advocacy for our local business community. It really has gone a long way. People are surviving and moving towards thriving, and trying to navigate all of this has been difficult, but it's been wonderful to have you all as community leaders alongside and having the community know that you're there for them. So that's a really big deal. And it's wonderful to be able to share who is behind it, because there's a lot of emails, there's a lot of things that go out, but it doesn't necessarily show who's behind it. So the next part of this conversation, I'd love to talk about where you think we are, where we can go next, you know, where there's we've talked about the past, what we've gotten, how we've gotten to now. How can we continue to get through this and come together as a community to move towards a vital, especially downtown, you know, larger community as well, but this is a show about downtown. Can you maybe speak to that? Let's say, anybody particularly ready to start on that question? Go for it, Claire.
Okay, I was just assuming I was going to be next, so preparing.
Perfect.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you for everything you've done to put all this together. You do a lot of work with the Downtown Santa Barbara organization. We're very, very happy to call partner. So this is something, you know, we've been talking about a lot internally in our staff meetings, and really, I think what it comes down to, and I'll explain this, is that we're entering into a new economic era. I don't think anyone can argue differently about that. We're totally entering into a new economic era. What is required of new eras are new mindsets. And the mindsets that we've had in the past about development, for example, about entrepreneurship, about access to capital, about equality, about inclusivity, all of those ideas that have come up during the last year, a year and a half, we have to start reevaluating those. And we've been forced to. We've been forced to look in the mirror of every disruption, and hopefully use every disruption as a mirror into our own soul and ask, what can I do differently? What has to change for me? And so what I hope we're going in the future is, for example, we just have this tremendous opportunity right now in front of us to look at leveraging human capital. And I don't mean that in a widget type way, but telecommuting is huge. I mean, we have complained for so many years about traffic between Carpinteria and Montecito and Santa Barbara. And, how can that be solved? Well, getting 50% of the people off the road is one idea, and that is costing businesses less. Keeping employees at home, using commercial spaces differently, looking at different ways we can use that commercial space, specifically in downtown Santa Barbara, differently. And I think it's come to the point where doing it the old way is no longer an option. When you're looking at 20%, I think that's what I heard last week, or we all heard last week, 20% vacancy rate on State Street, that's just not acceptable anymore. And I think business owners are finding new ways of doing business. The success of the parklets, for example, of being used for outdoor dining, different ways we can use that area that we may have been resistant to before. Just at this point, it's like, we got to move on from that. And I think those thought leaders, the people who are those thought leaders, the business owners that have the capacity to make those pivots within themselves first, and then in their business, and then community leaders that move obstacles and barriers to support those changes. That's what we need. So it is going to require, I think, new thought in terms of on the leadership level, and I'm meaning city leadership level, all the way down to street level. So we have community leaders at every level in Santa Barbara, and then among our electeds as well. There are big obstacles to move, and I think it's time for change. So that's where I hope we're going. I'd love to see Paseo Nuevo used differently, for example. And yeah, I remember my husband remembers this. He told me stories years ago about how this was in the early 90s, how his older sister lived above, I don't know, it was like Celadon House or something, down on State Street, and how she was able to do that. And I was thinking, oh my God, that's gold. Like that, just to live downtown and have mixed use areas that create a different sense of community would be so amazing to return to, but also to redefine for a new generation. So that's my hope. That's where I hope we're going. I see some of that already happening.
I like that vision, and that's really great feedback and insights. Thank you, Claire. Would anyone like to go next? It sounds like your dog wanted to go next, but
for sure. I'm happy to go next. I think.
Thank you.
I think Claire hit the nail on the head for sure. Look, there's no shortage of innovation and innovative ideas. There's so much momentum right now. So many people have come together to work on solutions. I think where we really need more real leadership is at the level of government that, there has to be a will to make change. And you have to be willing to make small bets, smart bets, not afraid to fail fast, but just to try. We have to try different things. And there are so many wonderful ways to do that. And we shouldn't be put off by the idea that, oh, it's too hard, it's too big to change. Change happens because in incremental pieces, everybody does something differently. And it's critical. It's absolutely critical that we change our mindset. Claire's really said it, perfectly. we need a bias toward action. We need to stop sitting around and talking about things and start doing things. And, if I appreciate how hard it is to be an elected. Look, you're not going to make everybody happy. We're not going to make a lot of people happy, but the facts are you're there to represent the whole and to do the greater good. And we have forgotten about the greater good, I think. I don't know what gets in the way of that, but that's why we're here, to take care of each other and to make sure our city thrives and grows, and that everybody has a chance, right? A decent chance, in terms of, a safe place to live, a safe and decent place to live, and their kids have schools to go to. There's so many important things that have to happen. I'm excited to be able to be in a place where I get to be part of those conversations, and I see change happening. But I hope that as a community, we can come together and put aside what differences we have and find the things that we can agree on so that we can move forward. That's really my hope.
Great perspective. That sounds really good. Thank you so much, Janet. I appreciate that. Nicki or Miguel, would you like to go next?
Go ahead, Nicki.
Thanks, Miguel. I think Claire and Janet have really captured all of the thoughts that I would express. I'm really, where we're coming from as an organization is to just, support the need for agency, for self-advocacy, and match it with this willingness to help our community. And, what we're trying to do in the coming months and years is just really keep listening to what we're hearing our clients express that they need and what we're observing, and match it, and I'll give you an example of, we saw how everybody pivoted their businesses online, but we also saw that for our Hispanic clients that was challenging, and that the e-commerce capability wasn't there. So what we're trying to do now is put courses in place that can help e-commerce as a capability for Spanish-speaking businesses. We have a partnership with Shopify LA to have a course in March. We have the Explore Entrepreneurship program that we're running. Many people may see this as an opportunity to start a business. We have our Restart loans that are available. So really, it's just, we want to keep listening to what we hear our community needing and anticipate where we can see the opportunity to support them. And to support the change that has to happen at sort of the higher level as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's each of you are listening and responding to changes that need to be made, and that's huge, and that's just to be commended. Thank you for sharing, Nicki. Miguel, what do you think is next for our community? I'm very curious to hear your perspective on this as such a longtime community member.
Yes, absolutely. Something that I have seen and experienced many times has been different kinds of crises: housing crisis, droughts, pandemics, or whatever, economic, political crisis, you name it. But, things happen for a reason. None of us have control of what's going to happen. So, but each crisis, each situation teaches us to keep our minds open, that we need to be ready to change. Life changes so fast, so drastically, that all of those who are easier to adjust, who are versatile with the business climate, with the whatever climate is surrounding us, those are the ones who can succeed and stay above. There's a reason why throughout history there's formulas out there. Like three out of 100 normally are the ones that succeed. That's the case in the real estate business. 3 out of 100 agents at the national level have a very good life, great lifestyle, busy constantly, making money. The other 97, for some reason, they struggle. There's another one that 80% of the people do, 20% of the people do 80% of the work, or gets 80% of the benefits, or whatever. That's just the way things are. But what excites me is to constantly being active and meeting people that want to succeed, that want to have a better life for themselves. And even though I would like to help everyone, well, that's just my nature. But you can only really help those that want to help themselves. And we live in a great community that what I have learned is that when crises come, we are the last ones to go into a crisis, and we are the first ones to get out of a crisis. That's just because where we're surrounded, what we have, Montecito, Hope Ranch, the ocean, the history, the topography, the location. We're just very, very fortunate that only the ones who don't want to succeed really are the ones who don't succeed. There's lots and lots of work. There's lots and lots of money. I don't know if you're on top of what the real estate is doing right now, but there's so many buyers ready to buy, and there's no houses. Okay, so what does that tell you? That yes, crises are bad for a lot of people, but then they're good for a lot of people.
But also that we need some housing. We do need some housing here as well.
Exactly.
That is for sure.
Everywhere where I can raise my voice about government creating housing for people, whether it's primarily to be ownership, affordable ownership housing. But if that's not possible, at least so people can rent at an affordable, because rents have gone so incredibly high. But I see a lot of great future ahead of us once this pandemic is over. We happen to be a country where my personal opinion is that government, for some reason, it screws everything up. Okay, we are in a country where the private sector is so powerful, it's so visionary. We have the greatest, hardest working people, citizens in the world, in the United States, who work tireless, who just work 24/7 if they need to, 365 days of the year if they need to. So I think this country would probably be a lot better if we had no government, but unfortunately we have to have government. So,
Well, as we wrap up, thank you so much for that, Miguel. As we wrap up, I just want each of you to share really briefly your websites, 3 things that people can go to your organization for, just as a reminder, and then we'll close up the show. So Claire, real quick, your website, 3 key items people can go to you and or your organization that if they need help with.
Thank you, Robin. I put our website in the chat, edcollaborative.com. You can also call the number. We offer free consulting services, webinars, and training, one-on-one training in Spanish and English. Call anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Claire. Nicki, where people can go? What are 3 things that they can make sure that they can find with you?
Okay, so our website is www.wevonline.org. You can check out upcoming events there, business trainings, and also loans and lending.
Okay, wonderful. And Miguel, what website or place can people go to find you, and 3 things that they can access with your organization?
Yes, gsvhcc.org. And my website, miguelavila.net. Those are 2 websites. My phone number, 805-896-0581. By the way, I answer the phone 24/7.
That's very kind of you.
Even if I'm in Africa, in Europe, whatever, I answer the phone. So,
wonderful.
Yes, so my email, I always answer my emails. Miguel.pacificcrest@gmail.com.
Wonderful. And Janet, what can people go to you to find, and how can they reach the bank?
I put it all in the chat room.
Okay, great.
www.montecito.bank. We are open for PPP loan business to anyone. You don't have to be a customer of Montecito Bank and Trust. You don't have to have had one with us before. If you are still looking for a first draw where you never came to the program, we've got that available. If you've already done that and you're looking for your second draw, we've got that available too. We've got lots of really talented and knowledgeable people to consult with you and help you through the process. So it's really much more streamlined than it was before, thanks to some automation that we were able to implement. I would tell you to go to our website, and everything that you could possibly want is there. We're a full service commercial bank. We have a wealth group. We do investments. We do lending to consumers and businesses. We will help you buy your first home. We will help you buy your first business location. And our people are there available to talk to you and help you through the process. We've had too many to mention Best Bank Awards in the last 8 years, but I'll tell you what, I think our team has earned every bit of it. They're really great people. And we're a best bank to work for. So if you're looking for a job, come and see us. So those are all the things you can do at Montecito Bank.
Oh, that's so wonderful. It has been such a joy to spend this time with you all. I know we could continue wonderful conversations all day. The passion that you exude through your work is beautiful, simply beautiful. And thank you for being here. Emily, would you like to share a little bit about our next show coming up?
Yes, and thank you all so much for taking the time today. We really appreciate it. And to everyone watching, thank you as well. Next week, we'll be back Thursday at 3 p.m. live on Zoom, and we're talking all about different downtown neighborhoods. So we'll have Albert D. Padova from Sevilla Square, Hugh Marjoram representing Presidio, the Presidio neighborhood, and then Mary Lynn from Paseo Nuevo. So hope you can join us then. You can register at independent.com/spotlight. And we hope to see you back.
Lovely. And lastly, State Street Promenade Market is happening now until 7:30 and every Thursday also. You can learn more about the downtown community and the businesses within our community at downtownsb.org. We'll see you all next time, and thank you all for such a great conversation. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
very
Robin.
much.
Great job,
Have a
Robin.
good one.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.